Hello, today is the 16th of March 2020 and President Duterte had just declared the whole of Luzon as a quarantine section. So instead of the whole country in a lockdown, for now, as the Philippines has been divided into three large islands, group of islands, the Luzon and Visayas and Mindanao. So the northern part of the archipelago, that's the one, in a quarantine, which can still, hopefully, it does the trick. But if not, we are going to be subjected to more external restraint. And this is the reason why. Hi there, this is your student Larissa talaga, and it's 3 minutes before 4 o'clock Philippine time. So I'm still here, work from home. And although I am accomplishing so much, which I will be able to present finally on April, hopefully. For now, I am one with the rest of the affected citizens who will be subject of the announcement for the new quarantine section of the Philippines, and that's the whole of Luzon. So the Philippines has been divided into three group of islands, and Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. So the bigger part, the where I am right now, it's Luzon island, and so we are under quarantine. The details of that will come later. It's just been announced. But you know what? I'm still open to how restraining and how forceful this external measure will be, because the more I understand it, the more I am open to cooperation. It's not good to fear the unknown. It's good to be concerned about something that you have an idea what it is that's spooking us, diba? So I just want to share with you how I understand the explanation that some great scientific mind who has both theoretical background, first-hand knowledge, because they've been affected by this. So Professor Lipkin had been in China during the SARS period, and only now, I always get to listen to explanations, snatches of conversations, but it's only until now, and from his very clear explanation, that I get to piece together what I've been hearing and how the shape of coronavirus is a key to how it multiplies, to how it affects our body. So I just want to share some thoughts about what it is that our different governments are dealing with. They are trying to contain something that can bring all of us into our knees, diba? No matter what the economic stature of a locality, of a national government, the per capita income. Boy, nobody is prepared for this. First off, today is March 16, 2020. For us here in the Philippines, it's the first Monday after the NCR quarantine. Can you just imagine the Metro Manila, that's the capital region, it's been announced that it's going to be under quarantine on the 13th, 2 days. We've been given 2 days before the actual quarantine. So, we are so big on preparations, and we are so big to, blame the authorities for not being prepared. And so the national government had given us 2 to 3 days to prepare for the closing of some highways with checkpoints. So there are exceptions to the restraints that's going to be put in place. And yet today, Monday, this is the first Monday after the declared quarantine. Boom. Disaster. So you can see that preparation is too directional. As the regulators should be prepared, so are the people who should be prepared as well, diba? But it would seem that both coming from the regulators, not enough measures had been put in place, while at the same time there were still citizens who could not produce the ID, and some had registered fever elevated temperature, and they still went ahead, to form the mass, the critical mass at the entry points, at the checkpoint. So it's really, we can see that what's in place right now will not be enough. So while some of us are on the streets right now to save lives and, for a normalcy for the rest of us to conduct normal life by having stable supply of food, medicine. So some of us have to be out there, while some of us have to stay at home to do just that, to save lives. Some would need relief and rest, and those of us who can postpone yet again going out to do our jobs, whatever the situation may be, we're praying and we're doing our best that the measures in place would be successful, so that by the time that there's a shift, that there's a, it's our turn to go out there, and for some of the workers to be relieved by the other set of relievers, things would have been better. To take a crash course to help us better understand what we're up against. As I said, it just sink in now. Coronavirus, it's a sort of generic name because SARS and MERS-CoV, the said to be deadlier strains, they are also coronavirus. Corona meaning, the crown. So they are shaped, the strain, they share the same as shape, kinda. But, COVID-19 will not have a different name. It would have been SARS-2 or MERS-CoV-2 if they are just derivatives, or if they are just of similar attributes as the first coronavirus. But the World Health Organization had deemed it proper to give it a new name to recognize the novelty, how this new strain is different from SARS and MERS-CoV. So I thought they are just variants, but it's not. There are those who contend that SARS and MERS-CoV, they are more. Are you a music teacher? No, I'm not. It would seem that some scientists will say that SARS and MERS-CoV, they are more fatal. That their infection had been, the death rate was higher than the strain right now, COVID-19. But some attributes of this previously unknown strain, the danger part is in the unknown side, which is now being manifested. I got to watch the video from the very first forensic scientists who conducted autopsy of those early fatalities, and the conclusions based on their studies, it's really new, and that in some ways they are milder, but in some ways they are more fatal and they should be treated with respect and with seriousness. And then, this part, this is very interesting for me. The attributes of a fungi, a bacteria, and a virus, diba? If I will choose which of these three I can identify with, they have different characteristics, and for a researcher like me who's interested in many things, it's really fascinating. Like the fungi, it's supposed to be multicellular, very complex structure than the bacteria, self-sustaining, they can grow on surfaces and they have longer lifespan, and we have antibiotics for that. But for the virus, it's supposed to be, obligate parasite, it's a non-life. The corona, and if I may just quote him, Dr. Ian Lipkin of Columbia University, those crown-like shapes, spikes of sugar, are for attaching to the cells they cling to for dear life. The coronavirus gets into the cell, replicating itself, releases its payload, reproduces genetic material, and that And that genetic material is assembled at protein code using the machinery of the cell. It exits the cell, acquires an envelope, the shape as we know it now, like a cloak. This is the familiar crown-like appearance, the crown-like appearance. Then it attaches to another cell. The whole process repeats itself. Sobrang bilis. So it just takes a drop. Actually, di ba, in a nasal drop or a spray, just just a touch. But because of their ability, okay, they can replicate themselves. They can go from cell to cell at no record time. Lahat shortcut. Shortcut. That's how fast it is. It doesn't need much to begin the infection because it can replicate itself. Shortcut lahat. Walang mahabang proseso to replicate themselves. Damages, and as soon as one coronavirus, attach itself at the airways, directly they cause damage while inducing an immunoresponses, and those immunoresponses can be toxins and toxic to human body. So some can endure the process and some cannot. Some health and immune system can cope and arrest worsening symptoms, and for some, the combination effect is immediate. That's why the worsening of the deterioration is so fast. So we do what we can to not spread this. Through what the scientists have shed lights on, we know that a virus on our hands, they're washable. It is washable. Because wala siyang buhay, it doesn't have a life. It cannot breathe. It cannot multiply. It's just there. It's, parang container. Pero, di ba, cells din naman yung kamay natin. Skin is the largest organ of our body and it's protective organ. But when it touches our skin, wala lang. It can be washed. It can be, we can use alcohol to deal with it. So it's like the cells on our hands, it cannot give life to the virus itself. The only way that it can be alive is pag pumunta siya, pag na-attach siya sa respiratory, sa airways natin, sa respiratory system. Because that is the ideal place for it to come to life, to multiply, to replicate, go from one cell to another. At once naman na nandun na siya, sobrang bilis naman niya. So parang nakaprogram siya daw na parang DNA or RNA na protein. Nagagaya niya yung structure ng cells. Not all cells, but only on the passage, the air passage. So they truly need and seek living cells to attach to para mabuhay. So it's either them. We can say that it's either them or us in some cases. We have to choose whether, we will give it life to our detriment, and the cost of that will be our own life, or we will not give it life, tayo naman yung mabubuhay, and we will not, we will be protecting ourselves. So, ang cells sa respiratory tract, yan ang ideal na lang habitat. And the good news is, the biggest organ of our body is still our skin. So, there is the entrance to the most vulnerable part of our body will be our respiratory. So, the only way that they can evade, the skin, the different protection that we have, is through the mouth and the nose. And with that information, just like me, that now it's just dawning on me. It's just, ngayon ko lang siya actually nai-internalize how serious it is. And that the part wherein it used to be very novel or unknown to us, the good news is so many scientists are doing their part to make known the ways how to prevent their spread and how to protect ourselves. So, yung part na nakakatakot, which is the unknown part, the part wherein we don't know what we're up against, unti-unti, slowly, day by day, they're being demystified. So, if the first time it hit Wuhan and Hubei, we were so mystified by it because we don't know what we're up against. But after the works of the scientists, and after some of them have caught it and they have managed to equalize the effect, the symptoms, they are now doing their part to shed light so that what's previously the unknown, the fear of the unknown, can be confronted with practical ways and means to stop the spread, because truly it is very dangerous and it's very serious to some section of our population. So in order to protect the vulnerable sector of our society, of the population, those of other sector of the population must do their part, and through the help of what's already been known, because starting from the time that I look at it as a good thing that China has been at the phase where none of the countries have yet reached, because we're just in the beginning stage, in the incubation period in our country here in the Philippines, and also in the US and also in Italy. But for China, they had taken a grip of this. It's better to put on hold the accountability of where it had started, but to share data, how we can cope without so much stress that we tend to weaken the immune system, according to the testimonies of those who had been confined because they got infected. It was especially hard for them. The specialists and the doctors didn't know, because the previous protocols didn't work, for the MERS-CoV and the SARS. They had to devise a new protocol to deal with this new strain. And so it's really nerve-wracking for them, because they're the guinea pigs. They had to contend with the trial period of dealing with this. But after China has made some progress, that they are not the epicenter at this time. They are the epicenter of treatment. Let's just open our minds to what happens next, and that the accountability and the blame can be put later on, when we're more on top of things. So I'd like to say thank you for those who have listened, and I hope that you have learned along with me. The worst is over, in that the part of the unknown attribute or character of this, although not all aspect of COVID-19 is known today, because the scientists are still piecing together, but China can provide us with a specimen and with real data that we can work with. So thank you so much for listening, and this is your student Clarice Delga, working from home. And I hope that we get to deal with this without as much casualty, as the lessons have already been provided for us to follow. Thanks, and praying for more discovery. Thanks.